Hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're gonna take a quick look at poor man's Orthos Prime, which is a Zoo polearm that I've created with the new infested Zoo parts that were made available via Operation Plaguestar. Now, poor man's Orthos Prime is made out of two of the infested parts, Plague Cripeth and Plague Bookwind, so it has innate viral damage, and it's using Iguana Jai 2, which sacrifices crit chance and damage for status chance and speed. These aren't that expensive. The Cripeth is just some nanospores, plastates, azurite and pyrotic alloy. The Bookwind is just grogdrol, fish scales, copperite alloy and plastates. And finally, the Iguana Jai Link only needs maprico, fair steel alloy, chondrok wings and mortis horns. Now, the idea behind this weapon was to make a status-based polearm that's really fast and takes advantage of condition overload by starting off with 4 damage types rather than 3. This is because we are using the infested Zoo parts, which give us viral damage. Now, it didn't look very promising at the start. The attack speed was pretty low, the status chance wasn't very high, and the damage was pretty low as well. And I think this is a problem with a lot of Zoos. They feel incredibly weak until you gild them. They have like half the stats they're supposed to have, so they feel really weak. You can't put a potato on them on top of that, so you have bugger or mod capacity, which makes it even worse. And the worst thing is that you can't recolor them, so they will ruin your fashion frame. But I stuck with it. I just kept it equipped and eventually got it up to rank 30 by passively leveling it up while doing random missions. So I got it up to rank 30 and I decided to gild it. This was actually the first Zoo I ever got up to rank 30 because I just gave up on all the other ones. They were just too bad. This gave the weapon some much needed stats because it got some attack speed, so it didn't feel sluggish, it got a little bit of damage, even a decent crit and multiplier. I also got 1v polarity on there and the ability to finally put on a potato. Though I didn't know this at the time because it doesn't actually tell you what the Zoo is gonna get in terms of stats, which is why I called it poor man's Orthos Prime, because it was just a shittier version of the Orthos. And this is the final build. It requires one format that adds a V on top of the already existing V that I added in by gilding the weapon, and it's a pretty straightforward condition overload build. The stance I decided to use is Bleeding Willow because I just like the wide sweeping attacks you get with it. It's just what I like about polearms. It's cleaving down loads of dudes. Then we have Prime Pressure Point for damage, Prime Fury for attack speed, though you could go with the Berserker and save yourself some points. It does have enough crit. And Primed Reach for loads of range. Then of course I added in Condition Overload because it's what this weapon was built around, and it's actually really strong. This is where most of our damage comes from because we have 6 different status effects we can proc on the enemy. Then we have Drifting Contact for some extra status chance and longer combo duration, Volcanic Edge for status chance and heat damage, and Virulent Scourge with Voltaic Strike for even more status chance and corrosive damage. Now, even though the weapon did feel pretty good after it was finally gilded, I wasn't quite sure what to expect from a full build when I finally took it into the simulacrum, and oh boy was I surprised. This thing is a beast. I mean, look at it chew through them bombards. It makes me proud. Yeah, the weapon turned out to be a bit of a monster. And it doesn't even matter which faction you're fighting, you already saw it slice through Grenier armor, so the large amounts of health on Infested doesn't matter. Even heavy proto shields on the Corpus just don't do anything, the weapon will slice right through them. So yeah, it turns out that now I have created a monster, and I'm really proud of it. Now, this isn't the only way you can build the weapon. If you want to go for like bigus dickus levels of damage, you can take out some of the utility and remove Primed Reach, which actually isn't that big of a deal because they did buff the range of two-handed Zoos in the latest update, so they actually do have a nice bit of range, and put in Blood Rush instead. Now, this literally just adds more damage because Reach doesn't really do anything other than add some utility because you don't have to be as close to the enemy. 19% crit chance isn't amazing for Blood Rush, but with enough hits you will occasionally see an orange crit here and there, and they will have a pretty big multiplier because the weapon has a 220% crit multi at base. Now, one sort of a downside about this weapon is that the status pool is so diluted it can sometimes take a while to proc viral. And if you don't proc viral at the start, you will have to get through twice as much health. So every now and then you might run into an enemy that just seems way tankier than the other ones, but it's probably because you haven't procced viral yet. And finally, since the range of two-handed Zoos has been buffed and the side attack damage isn't too shabby, you can go for a meme strike build as well. Though bear in mind that this is a condition overload build and it was not designed for this, so you do have to hit the enemy a couple of times before you're doing full damage. Though as you can see on the screen right now, the meme strike damage is actually pretty good. So yeah, I would very much recommend you check this weapon out. It is once again made out of Plague Cripeth, Plague Bookwind and Iguana Jai 2. Though bear in mind that it will feel kind of crappy until you gild it. And that's pretty much it for the video. I'm very happy with how the weapon turned out because it's exactly what I imagined when I first bought the parts. It's actually even more than that. It's not just a fast status-based polearm that's taken advantage of condition overload. It's also very cheap, it does a ton of damage, and the build is pretty flexible. It's not set in stone, so you can tailor it to your own liking. And that's enough blabbering for today. So as always guys, I thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.